Hello, Mariana. How are you? Hello, guys. Hi, Luciano, Caroline, Lucas, Renata, Mariana. How you doing? Did you enjoy your mini vacation last week? What did you do on Thursday evening since we didn't have any class? Okay, so today we're gonna see the unit 9. Okay, about your previous homeworks, I haven't had time to correct all of them yet. So if I haven't replied your email, it's because of that. I have been translating lots of materials and then uh, it has been keeping me busy. So sorry about that. Luciano has been with his family. Oh, that's good. Stayed home and stuff. That's very cool. And nowadays, yeah, we have to stay together, stay home, and so we can be safe. But alright. Well, so the unit 9 today we're gonna review lots of things and see some new details because basically it's gonna cover the idea for conditionals. So the conditionals are when we create some conditions for some things to happen, and they are usually introduced by if. Okay, so it's the if clauses that we're gonna see. Mariana saw a church motorcade. Oh, it's interesting. But did you have to go out for that? Or you could see it from home? Because, yeah, I know that everybody in their cars, yeah, in the motorcade, but still, you have to go out, yes. Right. Okay, guys, but let's start. So I will start first showing you a picture uh, of a little compilation of all the conditionals in English, just for, okay, you saw from home, from your door, all right, that's better, safer. So the conditionals, basically we have 4 kinds of conditionals in English, which is 0, first, second, and third. And when we use one of them, they are mostly introduced by if. And when we use if, we start imagining some things, just creating hypotheses or improbable, impossible scenarios. And these are the 4 conditionals that we must remember. I'm not going to use the 9.1 from our material because it's too long and lots of text. So I'm just going to summarize everything using this picture. And we're going to go over each one of them. Basically, when we talk about the conditionals, the structure is fixed, okay? For example, the 0 conditional that we have here at the top, the first one, It's called zero conditional because it reflects things that are always true, things that always happen. Okay, so for example, we can see that the structure is formed by present simple, one clause with the present simple, and another clause follows also in the present simple. So present simple, the do, does, or he goes, she likes, this kind of structure. The use is basically, we use it for facts which are generally true, or scientific facts, things that don't change. So the condition always has the same result. So if you do that condition, you will get the same result. For example, the first one, if you stand in the rain, you get wet. So this is fixed, right? So every time you stand in the rain, you get wet. So because this is a general truth, you can use present. All right. So if you stand in the rain, you get wet. Stand present, get wet, present. Okay. So because every time you stand in the rain, every time you get wet. Or the next one, if you hit ice, it melts. Okay. So if you hit ice, it becomes water. It becomes liquid. And this is a general truth. It will always happen. If you hit the ice, it will always turn into water. Okay, so it will melt. So this, for general truths, things that are always the result is always the same, then you use the zero conditional. Okay, for example, if I drop this pencil, it falls. Okay, this will repeat. I can repeat this experience a million times, and every time it's gonna happen the same thing. If I drop the pencil, it falls. Okay, this is like a fact. It's always gonna happen. So this is the zero conditional. Okay, the first conditional. Now, so the zero is like every time it's gonna happen. Every time the result is the same. But when we talk about the first, the second, and the third, we are talking about specific situations, specific moments that they depend on that condition. Okay, like the result depends on the condition. If the condition doesn't exist, the result doesn't exist as well. And the structure for the first conditional is always a present simple in the first clause and a future reference in the second clause. Here the image just shows will or won't in the negative, but we can also use will, can, may, right, or going to. We can also use other forms for future to represent this future possibility. So in this case, we have, if it rains, we'll cancel the trip. Now the thing is, the difference from the zero conditional is, it's not every time it rains, every time we cancel the trip. So this is not a fixed situation. This is just about this specific moment, this specific trip. If it rains, we'll cancel the trip. So, and the opposite is also true. If it doesn't rain, we won't cancel the trip. So canceling or not the trip depends on the rain. Okay, if it rains, we will cancel. If it doesn't rain, we won't cancel. Or if you study, you will pass the exam. If you study, you will pass the exam. So passing the exam depends on studying. And the only possibility for passing the exam is studying. So the result, passing the exam, depends on the condition, studying, right? So then you have specific things. Oh, we have the exam next week, for example. It's a specific exam, it's next week. If you study, you will pass. But if you don't, you won't. Okay? So we use the first conditional for a possible situation in the future. Okay? It's a possible situation because we have the condition. We need the condition to happen so we can get the result. Or we can predict a likely, probable result in the future if the condition happens. Okay? So just recap. Zero conditional, present, always true. always repeats. First conditional, present with future, and it's a possible situation, possible result for the future. Okay. The second conditional. The second conditional, basically what we do is, here we have the present in the first conditional, so we use the past. Here we have will, and here we have the past of will, would. Okay, so the second conditional, the structure is this. We use the past in the first clause, and would or could, okay, or might. This iria idea that we use in Portuguese. Faria, seria, poderia. This is the idea we use in the second conditional. And we use the second conditional for hypothetical or unlikely situations. So they are not real, they are unreal or improbable situations now or in the future. They are usually the opposite of reality. Okay, so usually when we have something, oh, if I didn't have this, or if we don't have something. If I had something, so we are basically imagining some situation or scenario. Okay, so for example, just to practice a little bit the conditionals we have seen so far. What if you had to answer like this? What if you wake up really sick tomorrow? Hello Mayara, hi Alonso, how are you doing guys? So if I ask you this question, so if I asked you this question with a possibility for the future, what will you do if you wake up really sick tomorrow? Okay, so in this case, I'm using the first conditional about something that is possible. Okay, it's not for sure, it's a possibility. But it's about the first conditional and it's about tomorrow. Okay, so what will you do if you wake up really sick tomorrow? So tell me guys, what will you do if you wake up really sick? So if Luciano wakes up really sick tomorrow, he'll go to the doctor, right? What else, guys? Lucas will stay in bed all day. Okay. So basically this first question uses the first conditional. So we can use the future idea because it's a possible thing for the future. It's possible, not probable, not for sure. And then you can use the future reference. Mariano said, if I wake up really sick, I'll stay home isolated. Right? Very good. That's good. Yeah, so staying home or going to the doctor in Luciano's example. Okay, that's nice, guys. Very good. So this is about like the first condition. Now let me ask you a question of the second conditional. If you Alonso said he will probably use some pills. Right. Let me throw another question. If you interviewed a celebrity, who would it be and what would you ask? Okay, so the first question was first conditional, something that it's possible for the future. Now, the second question is something that is more hypothetical. It's probably not going to happen, okay, or maybe not so soon. It's a harder thing to happen, harder than at least the first question. It's I think it's more, we have more chances of waking up sick than interviewing a celebrity. But if you interviewed one, who would it be, and what would you ask this person? Right, good. And you'll ask, teacher, for the question, being sick is an unlikely situation, isn't it? It's better to use the second conditional, or am I wrong? No, Angela, you're not wrong. Okay, actually, it's unlikely. That's true. Because if you're feeling well now, it's very improbable that you will get sick like overnight. Okay, so that's true. For example, when Luciano and Lucas answered, I would go to the doctor, I would stay in bed. It's possible because they are showing this improbability of this happening. Okay, and actually I am expecting some of these. For example, I ask will, you answer would. I am expecting this kind of mixing because this is the second part of the class, mixing the conditionals. Okay, something that it's not very common, it's not usually used, but it's possible, and this what's gonna. So, for example, Luciano said, now my answer was wrong, right? I'll go to the doctor. Yes, if you follow the question, Luciano, I will go to the doctor. But if you follow your present state, like, oh, I'm fine, I'm probably not gonna get sick, I would go to the doctor, is right as well. So no problem, okay, about using would for that. Okay, so it's totally okay. So here basically I am asking very plain conditionals, like with the perfect ideal structure. But in the second part of the class with the presentation with the material, I'm gonna show you how we can mix. Okay, we can mix like the second conditional and the third conditional, and the first and the second, because this is possible. No ideas for the celebrity? For example, if I interviewed the celebrity, I would interview Jim Carrey, and I would ask if he were tired of always being a funny guy. Okay, something like that. Alonso said he would interview maybe Paul McCartney, and he would ask him why the Beatles was over. All right. Yeah, that's true. They just like split up the band, or somebody died and then the Beatles was over. I really don't remember the chronology of the thing. If somebody died and then the band was over, or the band was over before anybody died, because I guess two of the members are dead now, right? It's very cool. So Because of Yoko? Is it true? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not much of a Beatles fan. If I can listen to something else, I do. But but I've heard this thing that after Yoko, the Beatles and John like just went down the drain. Mayara said, if I interviewed Beyonce, I would ask her why she's still with Jay-Z. Right? Isn't he a nice guy? John Simple said, the dream is over. Right? Okay, well, I don't know. I'm gonna read the Beatles biography so I can have an idea about that. But very cool. Well, but about your answers, they're okay, right? Just he's an okay. I'm not gonna say this word, Mayara, but he is not so nice guy. Okay. Mateo said he cheated on her. Oh, really? But but they were still together when he died, weren't they? I guess she was beside him when he was shot. In, but yeah, but I don't know. But we have lots of conspiracies about it, and yeah, I really don't know. But very cool, guys. Let me change the name of the class here. Beatles discussion. Yes, she was. Oh, yes. I really don't know, but yeah. But very cool, guys. So let's move on. Okay, while you continue the Beatles discussion, or why Jay-Z is not a nice guy or something like that. Let me go to the uh, just finish about the second conditional here. The second conditional that I asked about the celebrity. So because this is a more hypothetical situation, and here we have two examples. If I won the lottery, I would travel a lot. So if I won the lottery, I would travel a lot. Not impossible, but unlikely. Okay, it's unlikely going to happen. Or the next one. If they sold their house, they would be rich. If they sold their house, they would be rich. Not impossible, but I don't know. Maybe they need the house, or maybe they just don't want to sell the house. So there's lots of reasons of this is not gonna happen. Okay. And the third conditional, we use the structure will always be formed by the past perfect. So the past perfect is had in the third form of the verb. And the second clause is would have in the third form, or could have third form, or might have in the third form. But you always need this perfect structure, have in the third form of the verbs. It sounds complicated, but we use the same thing in Portuguese. We usually we use exactly the same logic when we talk in Portuguese. The use is when we are imagining a different past. Okay, so the third conditional we do use for impossible scenarios. Just imagination, okay? Because we cannot change the past. Okay, so things happened and we can change them. But we can imagine how they could have been different, you know? So the third conditional is for impossible things because they happened and you can't change. And here you have two examples. If you had studied, you would have passed the exam. So what happened in reality is completely the opposite. So if you had studied in real life, I didn't study. You would have passed the exam in real life. I didn't pass the exam. Okay? So basically, if the third person is affirmative, the reality was negative, you know, so it didn't happen. But can I go back? Can I go back and retake the test, study what I didn't study. No, I can't. So it's just imagination. Or the next one, if I hadn't been sick, I would have gone to your party. Oh, so if I hadn't been sick, I would have gone to your party. So in the past, I was sick and I didn't go to your party. Okay, so oh, your party was so nice. If I hadn't been sick, I would have gone. Okay, but sorry, I was really bad, so I had to stay in bed all day long. Okay, so we're just imagining about the past. And now, my question again. What if you had been born in What if you had been born in Japan, students? Okay, so try to imagine this about your life. I suppose everybody here was born in Brazil, but what if you had been born in Japan? Okay, try to think about your life with that possibility. Let me say, for example, if I had been born in Japan, I would have had a different school life, because in Japan education is different, discipline is a little different, so I would have had a different school life. No? How about you? Right. So if Luciano had been born in Japan, he would be more organized, right? That's the that's an stereotype we have from Japan, that they are pretty neat and clean and everything. Have Has any of you been to Japan already to confirm if it's true or not? I just know what I have seen from documentaries or movies or anything. Mateo said, if I had been born in Japan, I would have been very thankful. Being a Brazilian is too tiring. Yes. Every day is a new plot twist in Brazil, especially nowadays. Mariana said she would have learned how to use chopsticks. Oh, that's true, the chopsticks. Very good. Good one. That's I've tried. I can't. It's a hard job to use the chopsticks. Alonso certainly would have learned judo. Oh, that's true. Another thing, yes, that we have as a stereotype about Japanese, Asian people, that they all fight something. I don't know if it's true or not. Mayara said if she had been born in Japan, she would have a totally different diet. Probably that's true. Different traditional foods, different culture. It's true, and probably you would be having this different diet with the chopsticks. Very cool. Mhm. Very good, guys. So, also probably the most obvious thing that we could say is, if I had been born in Japan, I would speak Japanese. Yeah, probably that's the most obvious. So let me just write it there. And then I'm gonna use this question to connect to the next part, okay? Because in this one here, you could say, you use it the third conditional, like I would have, and that's right. But then we can also use, I mixed, for example, in my answer that I wrote there, I mixed the third conditional and the second conditional. So if you pay attention, I use the beginning of the third conditional, if I had been born, the past perfect. And after the comma, I use it the second conditional. If I had been born in Japan, I would speak Japanese, because now I'm contrasting and comparing past and the present. If I had been born, I would speak. The reality is I wasn't born, I don't speak. So now I'm mixing a past situation and a present result, which is possible, and we're gonna see now. Okay, just for copyright, okay, this material is not mine. I left all the reference, so you can see it's from Woodward English. It's a very interesting website. They have great pictures with lots of grammar compiled. So sometimes, like for example, all the conditionals, which is pretty complex, the structure is just here in one picture. So this is a very nice website. I use their pictures a lot because they have very nice insights for making complex explanations short. Okay, so it's I recommend that. Well, so let's move on to the next part, the mixed conditionals. So the mixed conditionals, like the name suggests, is because you can take part of the second, the third, and mix them. But one thing that we must always observe is logic. Okay, we cannot mix, for example, 0 and the third, because the logic would be compromised. Okay, so it's really hard to mix like future and past, you know. So we can mix the conditionals, but it's a kind of a controlled mix. For example, let me move on just to the part. So here we have just normal third conditionals. If I had had breakfast this morning, I would have eaten eggs. So we can understand that the person didn't have breakfast and the person didn't have eggs. But just imagining about the past, oh, if I had had breakfast, I would have eaten eggs. Or if it had rained yesterday, the game wouldn't. If it had rained yesterday, the game would have been cancelled. So we can understand that it didn't rain yesterday and the game was not cancelled. So it's just a hypothesis about the past. Now, sometimes we can, like I did, we can talk about past condition, present result. So we are going to mix. For example, so let me just move my picture because I think I'm in front of the explanation here. Yeah, so there we have, I'm gonna put it here so smart logo appears. So imagine you didn't eat breakfast before school. You didn't eat, that's past. The result of this now is that you are very hungry. So you didn't have breakfast in the past and now you are hungry. And then you can make an if and mix. If I had eaten breakfast before school, I wouldn't be so hungry now. So if I had eaten breakfast before school, I wouldn't be so hungry now. And think that the logic is pretty much okay, because we would say the same thing in Portuguese. Se eu tivesse tomado café da manhã antes de ir para a escola, eu não estaria tão faminto agora. Se eu tivesse tomado, não tomei, eu não estaria com fome agora. Estou. So we are contrasting past situation and the present result. Okay. So this is why, for example, this is perfectly what Angelo said before. Oh, but this is unlikely to happen. So can I use would? Or I have to use will? No, you can use would because you are mixing. And because you are mixing, you are showing different context. Okay, so it is possible to mix. Let's move on. Another one. Imagine you were born in an English-speaking country. The result is that your English is perfect. Okay. Almost perfect, yeah, because nobody's English is perfect. But I suppose that everybody here in our class was born in Brazil. Okay, so we were not born in an English-speaking country. And we speak perfect Brazilian, right? So If I hadn't been born in an English-speaking country, my English wouldn't be perfect. Or in your case, in our case, if we hadn't been born in Brazil, we wouldn't have perfect Portuguese, for example. Right? So that's it. I'm contrasting past and present. Okay. So I am mixing third conditional, second conditional. And observe that the logic remains. Or another one. Imagine it was Jim's birthday yesterday. So yesterday it was Jim's birthday. The result of this is that he's sick this morning. Okay. Well, so it was his day yesterday and today he's sick. Maybe he's sick, not a disease, but maybe he drank too much and he's got a stomach ache or something like that. So he's feeling sick. So his birthday was yesterday, today he's sick. If it hadn't been Jim's birthday yesterday, he wouldn't be sick this morning. He drank a lot. So if he hadn't drunk so much, he would be fine now. Okay, so we can just imagine about the past and contrast to the present. Okay. Well, we can also mix a present conditional, something that is real now, with a past result. Okay. For example, imagine you didn't understand the movie last night. Okay, so you watched the movie in French and you didn't understand because you don't speak French. Okay, so speaking French is a permanent thing, it's a present thing. And the movie last night was just last night, the past. So we can say, if I spoke French, I would have understood the movie. If I spoke French, I don't, I would have understood the movie. I didn't. Okay, so we are contrasting this. Present conditional and a past result. The present conditional is, I don't speak French. If I spoke French, I would have understood the movie last night. Okay. Or imagine you didn't eat the meat because you're a vegetarian. Okay, so you didn't eat the meat because you are a vegetarian. If I weren't a vegetarian, I would have eaten the meat. If I weren't a vegetarian, I would have eaten the meat. Okay, so if I weren't, because I am. I would have eaten the meat because I didn't eat the meat. Okay, so, but the logic remains. And one detail. When we are talking about if and we use the verb to be, we use the form were for all the subjects. If I were, if you were, if she were, if he were, if they were, if we were, all the subjects, when we use if, the correct form is were. Okay, for the present, for the verb to be. This is the correct. However, lots of native speakers use if I wasn't a vegetarian. If I wasn't a vegetarian. It's very common, people use it. You may use it if you wish, but it's not grammatically correct, okay? So this is, for grammar, this is wrong. Just because of if, okay? It happens because of if. There are two moments that it happens, with if and wish. Wish, the verb wish. It's another structure, but it happens, okay? So for example, if you take like a Justin Bieber song, he says, if I was your boyfriend, I would never let you go. And he says that, if I was your boyfriend, I would never let you go. Okay, but Beyonce, I guess it's Beyonce. A female pop singer, I'm not sure, but I think it's Beyonce. She has a song, if I were a boy, if I were a boy, I think I would understand. It's something like that. So, and then she uses the correct grammar. But they are both famous, really famous celebrities. Nobody judges them because, oh, Justin, your song is wrong. The lyrics are grammatically wrong. Nobody says that, okay? So in real life, people mix. But the correct form is if I were, you were, he were, she were. This is the correct, okay? Then another example. Imagine you had to stay home last night. So you had to stay home last night because your car isn't working. So now if you go there, the car isn't working. If my car were working, I wouldn't have had to stay home last night. So notice that it's my car were. If my car were working, I wouldn't have had to stay home. But my car isn't working and I had to stay home. So I'm just imagining an impossible scenario because I can go back and change that. Okay, so basically this is what is happening. We are mixing second and third conditionals, okay? So what we saw before, that it was the second conditional, the third conditional, we are just mixing the clauses, okay? Because of our message, what we want to say. Okay, so this is possible. Notice that it's more possible when we mix the second and the third conditional. The first and the zero needs a specific moment. It's also possible, depends on the context, it's possible. But if the material doesn't show it, probably the exercises won't ask you, it of you. Okay. Everything okay so far, students? Okay. If you get confused about structure and head, just close your eyes, listen to your heart, because since we do use the same logic in Portuguese, so your brain is gonna work properly, okay, with that. And your brain's gonna find the logic. Oh, well, and then we're gonna see it in the last part, the 9.3. We're gonna see other conditional expressions. Other conditional expressions. Not only if transmits a condition, we can also use other words. So this is more like the new part, okay? It's normal vocabulary, but we're gonna see in a new idea. Okay, so basically that's it. Just explaining that we can also have other structures for conditionals. And let's see. So the first one that we're gonna see in examples here is even if. Okay, even if. Notice that it uses the if. Okay, even if. Well, what's the meaning of even if? So even if, let me try to move my picture here. We use even if, we can use in the first, second, third conditional, that doesn't matter. But the thing is, the meaning for even if is it doesn't matter, or it doesn't change the result. If before the previous sentences we were analyzing that the conditional, the condition is essential for the result, here we're going to see that even if the condition is useless, because the result's going to happen anyway. Okay, so before, just with if, the condition is essential. With even if, the condition is not essential, because the result is going to happen regardless of the condition. Okay, so let's see some examples. And here they put again a situation. So imagine that it's raining really hard and it's very windy. Of course, you will, if you go outside, you will get wet. So it's raining very heavily and it's very windy. So you can picture all that storm happening. So if you take an umbrella, you're gonna get wet because of the wind. The water is gonna come from all the directions. Okay, from up, from down, from right, left, because it's very windy. So you will get wet if you take an umbrella, and if you don't take an umbrella, you will get wet. So it doesn't matter if you have an umbrella or not, you will get wet. And then you can say, oh, you will still get wet even if you have an umbrella. So this is close to what we say mesmo que, mesmo se, in Portuguese. So you will still get wet even if you have an umbrella. Okay? Because under this weather conditions, it's not relevant if you have an umbrella or not. Or the next one. Imagine you think Mercedes-Benz cars are not very nice. So, Mercedes, no thank you. Of course, if you have this opinion, you will never buy a Mercedes-Benz because you don't like them. Okay. And another possibility is, if you don't have money, you can buy the Mercedes. If you have money, you're not gonna buy the Mercedes because you don't like Mercedes cars. So having the money is irrelevant, okay? So if you had enough money, you wouldn't buy the Mercedes. If you didn't have enough money, you wouldn't buy the Mercedes. So we could say that I wouldn't buy a Mercedes-Benz even if I had enough money. Okay, so the money is not relevant here because the result is not buying a Mercedes-Benz. Never. So you're never gonna buy having money or not. So even if. Okay, or some other examples. You will like the movie even if the English is hard to understand. Okay, so it doesn't matter if the English is easy or difficult, you will like the movie, that's for sure. Or I would still be tired today even if I hadn't had a lot to drink last night. Okay, so being tired is for sure. Last night, according to the sentence, I drank. Okay, I drank a lot last night. But it doesn't matter. If I drank, if I didn't drink, okay, it doesn't matter because I would still be tired today. Or the next one, just let me move my picture. I still wouldn't be your girlfriend even if you were the last man on earth. Okay, this sentence it's more common sometimes in movies or series. I still wouldn't be your girlfriend even if you were the last man on earth. So you are the last man on earth, you are not the last man on earth, it's irrelevant. I wouldn't be your girlfriend. Okay, so even if. Next, unless. Okay, unless the idea is to bring an exception, basically. That's the idea. So we use unless to explain one realistic exception and the only exception to something. Okay, so even if, it doesn't matter the condition, it's irrelevant. The result is the same. Here we have the result is not gonna happen except for one thing. Okay, or the result is going to happen except for one thing. So depends on the context. Let's see the examples. You will go to the park this weekend, and the only exception to this plan is if it rains. So you are going to the park, that's for sure. Okay, so you are going to the park. If it's cloudy, you're going to the park. If it's sunny, you're going to the park. If it's windy, you're going to the park. Okay, you are going to the park. The only exception is the rain. I will go to the park this weekend unless it rains. So we have here the condition. Okay, unless it rains. It's equivalent to our when we say a menos que, a não ser que. This is more the idea that we use unless. I will go to the park this weekend unless it rains. Or imagine that you're having a meeting at 3 p.m. You will start at 3 p.m. The only exception to this is if someone is late. Okay, so the meeting is supposed to happen 3 p.m. and you are very punctual. You are going to start at 3 p.m. But the only exception if someone is late. So we will start at 3 p.m. unless someone is late. If someone is late, we are not gonna start at 3 p.m. Or you want to say that you will be angry if the bus isn't on time. Because you're explaining why you will be angry, do not use unless. You are not explaining the only exception. So here they put a more complex situation. So you will be angry if the bus is not on time. So in this case, it's not the only exception why you will be angry or not. So let's see the example they make. I will be angry if the bus is not on time. Okay. So in this case, unless is not right, because if you say, for example, I will be angry unless the bus is not on time, the idea is you will be angry anyway. You will be angry. And if the bus is late, you won't be angry. Então, eu vou ficar bravo a menos que o ônibus se atrase. Se o ônibus se atrasar, eu não fico bravo. So this is the idea that would happen if you use unless here. Okay? And this is the normal if. Right? So that's the thing. Another one. You want to ask if it will be okay if you don't wear a tie to the party. So the tie. So you want to ask if it's okay if you don't wear a tie for the party. And you want to know if it will be alright if it's specifically you do not wear a tie to the party. Then don't use unless because of the message. So you can ask, will it be okay if I do not wear a tie to the party? So, tudo bem se eu não usar não usar gravata na festa? And then so the material is trying to contrast unless and if. Okay, so unless it's the only exception, and in this case it's not the only exception. And giant context, but it's the last one. You want to say that you will break up with your boyfriend if he doesn't quit smoking. Is the condition if he doesn't quit smoking the only exception you will break up with your boyfriend? Yes. Okay, so basically you love your boyfriend, there's no problem in your relationship, everything is great, perfect. The only thing is that he smokes. And you put up this condition. Okay, if you don't stop smoking, I will break up with you. Okay, so I will break up with my boyfriend unless he quits smoking. This is strange because it says, I will break up with my boyfriend unless he quits smoking. If he quits smoking, we will stay together. Okay, so you need to analyze the context. All right. So I will break with my boyfriend unless he quits smoking. If he quits smoking, it's fine. Okay. And the last expression that the material shows, as long as, so long as, provided that, or providing that. Okay. This, and the material says, these three expressions all have the same meaning. Okay. Contanto que, that's more when we say, contanto que, provido que, desde que. So they mean only if the condition is true, then something else will also be true. So let's see the examples. As long as you work hard, you will pass the test. Okay, so this is very similar to if. If you work hard, you will pass the test. As long as you work hard, you will pass the test. So long as you work hard, you will pass the test. So these are more similar to if. Okay, the same idea as if. If you work hard, you will pass the test. Provided that you work hard, providing that you work hard, you will pass the test. Or if you work hard, you will pass the test. Okay. So the material is just showing because they are alternatives. So you can vary your style, your vocabulary. So you can show that you know a wider range of vocabulary and structure. And do not confuse these three expressions with unless. Remember that unless is used with the only exception. Okay, and these expressions are only if the following condition is true. So it depends on the condition, similar to if. I will go to the park this weekend as long as the weather is nice. I will go to the park this weekend if the weather is nice. Okay. Or I will go to the park this weekend unless it rains. Okay, so in this case, the first one is I will go if the weather is okay, and the second, I will go if it doesn't rain. Okay, so something like this. He will like your present, providing that he likes sports. So to like the present, he needs to like sports. And he will like your present unless he doesn't like sports. Okay, so notice that they are inverting negative and affirmative to adapt for providing unless, as long as, unless. Okay, and more examples. I will do my homework so long as they have internet connection. So I need the connection to do my homework. Or the next example, I will do my homework unless the internet stops working. Okay, because the idea is if the internet stops working, I don't do my homework. But if the internet is okay, I do my homework. Okay, and that's the thing. And that's it. It's over. All right. So this is what you should remember. So let's just a little recap. We saw the conditionals. Okay, so the conditionals are basically these 4 conditionals: 0, first, second, third. Each one of them has a structure and a specific purpose. Okay. Then we saw in the second one the mixed conditions, that you can mix specifically the second and the third conditionals. Okay, if you're playing with the past and the present, you can mix. And we saw some other expressions to indicate condition. We saw even if, unless, as long as, provided that, providing that. Okay, we saw these 3 expressions. So this is what you should remember about today's class. Okay, and for the speaking part that we're gonna do next, we are going to basically imagine some situation. I'm gonna propose some topics, some things, and we would like you to work your imagination. All right, but that's it. So do you have any last questions or anything before I finish the transmission, guys? Today I'm finishing the transmission a little earlier than usual so we can have more time for discussion, to talk. Okay. Then if you have any questions about today's class, if something is not so sure, just feel free to ask. Alonso asked what happened to the dogs because they didn't bark today. Actually, no, they spent the whole day out so they could be sleeping now. Okay. We left them like running because my yard and backyard is really big. So like it's more than 500 square meters. So we left them like loose all day long. So they were running and barking and playing. And now they're sleeping because they're tired. This could be a strategy for every class, right? And then I could say, if I hadn't set them free, they would be barking now. Just to make an example. Would you send to us the first picture about... Oh, yes. I'm going to try to... Let me see if it's possible. Yes. I put in the chat the link to the picture. Okay. And also you can access, you will see at the bottom of the picture the website. Okay, so woodwardenglish.com. It's where I got it from. Okay. But alright. Okay, guys. So see you soon. Okay. Just stay tuned to the WhatsApp group because soon I will start calling the groups. All right. So see you soon, guys. Bye.